There are many ways in which we can link the environment to armed conflict. It can be a casualty of conflict, used as a tool for warfare. Climate change can cause armed conflict, and conflicts can also be responsible for climate change. Environmental damage during armed conflicts frequently extends over large areas and continues for years, sometimes even for decades after the war is over. This has severe consequences for civilians, as has been seen in the use of herbicides in Vietnam, the burning of oil wells during the first Gulf War, the polluting of groundwater in the Gaza Strip, and deforestation in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. International humanitarian law does protect the environment during an armed conflict, as well as the use of natural resources. However, many do argue that it does not do so adequately. Additional Protocol 1 was negotiated after the Vietnam War, when the international community bore witness to the use of Agent Orange to defoliate Vietnam's jungles. Articles 35 and 55 of Additional Protocol 1 prohibit methods or means of warfare which cause widespread, long-term and severe damage to the natural environment. However, an issue is the requirement of widespread, long-term and severe damage, in that all three conditions need to be met for their breach. The meaning of the terms is also pretty stringent, with long-lasting meaning lasting for decades, and some argue do not sufficiently protect the environment, given that they are almost impossible to achieve. There is also the NMOD Convention, which was negotiated following the Vietnam War as well, and prohibits the use of environmental modification techniques which weaponize the environment, such as by provoking earthquakes, tsunamis, or weather changes. Article 1 prohibits the use of such techniques which have widespread, long-lasting, or severe effects. This is a lower threshold of damage, which requires merely that any of these standards be met, i.e. that the damage be either widespread, long-lasting, or severe. The terms are also defined differently, with long-lasting defined as lasting a period of months or around a season. However, it is important to note that this convention does not protect the natural environment generally during conflict, it just prohibits using it as a weapon. The environment, when it is a civilian object, is also protected indirectly by the principle of distinction, also by the principle of proportionality, in that environmental damage could also be seen as disproportionate, and that methods and means of warfare which destroy resources which sustain a civilian population could also be considered inhumane. So IHL does provide protection for the environment in times of armed conflict. However, it has been argued that these are inadequate due to their stringent conditions and restrictive framing. Some argue for a fifth Geneva Convention, which would focus on the environment, whereas others argue for a permanent international monitoring mechanism which would monitor legal infringements and consider compensation claims. Whilst the ways in which the international community will come together to address the impacts on the environment of armed conflict are as of yet unclear, climate change makes it all the more necessary that states cooperate to address the impacts of global warming, prime among them being the increased likelihood of more conflicts in the future.